Hello, everyone. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your questions into the comment box and you will see me check from time to time. Today's guest is Rachael Narins, but before we get to her, I have a word or two from my boss, jmoreliving.com. On June 2nd, enjoy laughs and libations at Union Craft Brewing. Have laughs with a unique and introspective evening of interfaith comedy show, a family-friendly stand-up show starring comedians from various religions. Tickets are $20 and include the show and one beverage. Doors open at 5 p.m. Program starts at 6 p.m. Also, each month, J Moore will be giving away $50 gift cards to numerous Baltimore restaurants. All this can be found, the tickets, and also for entering the contest can be found at jmoreliving.com, and for the contest, jmoreliving.com/contest. Today's guest is Rachael Narins, the head chick from chickswithknives.com, a culinary school graduate who launched her career in culinary education, recipe development, food writing. Her first book, Cast Iron Cooking, has been an Amazon editor's choice since it was originally published. She has subsequently collaborated on several other best-selling cookbooks. Rachael has contributed to The Kitchen, Simple Recipes, The Guardian, Food and Wine, the LA Times, the Nosher, and more. Let's say hello to Rachael.
Good morning. Hi.
Well, good morning to you. You're in LA. You're here in Baltimore, so we're good afternoon. Other than the show today, what else is on your plate?
What's on my plate? Well, I'm doing a lot of writing, food writing, recipe development, my passion. So it's been a very busy few months. It's been really nice. I've also been very lucky to have traveled a lot this year. So I've been eating myself silly.
Well, you don't look it. You look very, very trim. Where did the call for culinary come from?
Pardon?
Where did the desire to go into culinary?
Oh, it's interesting. We traveled a lot as a family when I was a child, and my parents weren't really cooks, but we traveled a lot. And part of our travel was always eating and getting to know where we went through food. So it became a passion of mine. And I majored in anthropology because I was interested in the world and learning about cultures. And then I realized what I really liked was just the food. So I ended up going to cooking school.
You went to the California Culinary Academy.
Yeah.
And University of California to Master Food Preserver program for canning and things of that nature.
I am a master food preserver. I'm certified by the state of California to educate people on safe canning practices.
I've never attempted it. I don't know why, and I should because I do a lot of other things in culinary. But the canning, but you're a master gardener as well, so that all sort of ties in.
Gardening is the perfect thing. I seem to always, it just dawned on me that I tackle the things people are scared of: knives, cast iron, and canning. The intimidating parts, because those are the things that you can't really just dive in. You can't just wake up and say, I think I'll make tomato sauce and make 20 gallons of it. You do need to educate yourself, and you do need that background. So I like to help people find the path forward with those sorts of things. And the Master Gardener and the Master Food Preserver programs are actually to work with underserved communities to teach how to grow food and then how to preserve it for, make life easier.
Well, you have been working with some of the underprivileged with going from the garden to the table. Am I correct?
Yes. As a master gardener, I volunteered. I've been a master gardener, I think, 12 years now, and we volunteer. I don't have a master's degree in gardening. It's kind of a weird misnomer of a name, but we work with underserved communities. So we teach gardening, and I work in different community gardens and transitional homes for homeless shelters, and help people learn how to grow food. And I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if you garden, but to watch your food grow from a seed really is, it can change people's perspective. And I know, like in the beginning of the pandemic, when everyone was suddenly learned you could put your scallions in a glass of water and they'd regrow, and everyone's minds were blown. And all the gardeners were like, yeah, you didn't know that? So it's fun when people learn that, and it's great information to have out there. And the more people talking about it, the better.
Well, you brought up the different subjects. So let's start off with cast iron, and I'll bring you my thing with cast iron. You have a book that's top of the list for Amazon. It perpetuates itself for a number of years. And forgive me, I'm having allergies today.
You're having allergies. I have a little cough.
Yeah. So my cast iron story is I've tried it twice. I know you don't put soap in it.
You
Clean
can.
it with salt.
Myth. You absolutely can.
Pardon me?
You absolutely can. That's totally a myth.
That is a myth?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one thing down. I would season it, and I never got it to a point where it was nonstick when I did things. Things stuck to it, and yet people keep these pans for eons. It comes down to grandma's cast iron pan. What are the benefits of it? I mean, and obviously I didn't know how to take care of it, or I had a bad pan. My husband got one at a flea market that was already seasoned. No matter what I did, things stuck to it. Help us.
Help you. Well, if you're using vintage cast iron, yours, you said, came already cleaned, but there are professionals out there who will restore cast iron for you. And that's kind of the way to go if it's not something you're comfortable doing. So that would be what I'd suggest for someone who's using vintage and isn't used to it. If you're starting with new cast iron, there's a lot of information out there on how to season. I think the thing with seasoning is that people get too enthusiastic about it, and you have to put a very, very, very thin layer of oil on it. And like you said, you were trying to get it to be non-stick. And what you're actually doing by putting the oil on it is you aren't making it oily. You're actually creating a type of natural plastic by heating it to a point where it it's a hard word to say, polymerizes. So you put a very, very, very thin layer of oil on it. You turn it upside down. There should be no oil dripping off of it whatsoever. And then you bake it in the oven. So, apologize. So yeah, if it's not something that's working for you though, I don't think you should push it. I mean, it is true. I mean, I hope the piece you have either goes to someone who is going to use it or is being used decoratively though, because it's a continuously renewable resource. We don't have to, it's recyclable, so you don't have to like get new iron.
I sold it. I think, what was it? What's the top of the line? Lodge? Something.
Lodge is very common, yeah.
My husband probably got it at the flea market for $5, and I sold it for $40, and the woman was very happy, and she wrote me back how much she loved it. So all was good with the world.
That you sold it for $40 is very impressive.
You know, thank God for Facebook Marketplace. I find things, I turn friends on who are now refinishing. They pick something up for $10 and they make a gorgeous piece out of it. Okay, now on one of your bios, now I know that you are very much involved in writing stories about Eastern European Ashkenazi cuisines, but you have expertise in Swedish.
Yes, my ancestry is very strange. I am Ashkenazi.
Help us.
But my mother's family is from Sweden, and she grew up in Pittsburgh, so she has like a lot of German influence in her life. And it's funny, I don't know where you read about my Swedish But so I grew up with a lot of Swedish influence in my house. And I am there's a lot of obviously overlap with Ashkenazi cuisine being, dill and potatoes and cabbage and herring, and Northern European cuisine. So it always sort of melds for me. And I just love it because, I mean, I'm a huge proponent of Ashkenazi food for myself, but I don't really think it's like the undiscovered food that suddenly everyone's going to be like, oh my God, we've been sleeping on kugel. I just don't see that happening. And that's
Yeah,
fine.
well,
You don't have to.
I just had Jennifer Abadi on, who is an expert and wrote books about Sephardic food and Middle
Sephardic food,
East.
whole different thing.
Right, right.
You have like something lentils, right?
Yes, A Fistful of Lentils.
Full of lentils.
And she's putting together another book now. I posted something up on Women Chefs that she's looking for people and stories from immigrants and stories
Oh, I saw
kind
your
of,
post. Yeah.
yeah. Forgive me, everybody. This allergies drive me crazy.
And
Um,
everybody, my cough.
yeah. So you started in culinary, but did you go from culinary school to restaurant to writing, or did you go directly to writing? How did where you are evolve, or what was your evolution?
I think I had a very, unfortunately, typical situation where I did work in fine dining in the Bay Area. That's where I went to school. And I had that I was a very young woman. I was in a male dominated, aggressive, wasn't for me kind of situation. They pushed me over to pastry. And like you, I'm not a baker. But I'm not. Um, and then I eventually just was like, I can't do this. So I went into food marketing and recipe development and marketing at Ketchum Food Marketing. And our big clients were the National Cattlemen's Beef Association and groups like that, commodity boards. So we developed recipes for them and for their marketing materials. And that's where I sort of learned how to do that. And that's where I learned how to write about food. And it became a real passion of mine. And it's something that I love so much that everyone eats, right? So writing about food is your way to convey that. And it's your way to you navigate through life. And like you were talking about, like my interest in my background with Swedish cuisine it's part of my heritage. It's not necessarily like the first thing I talk about, but if you bring it up, I can talk about it for hours. So my other, it's funny you said that because my one grandmother was part Swedish, and my other grandmother was from New York City, but she grew up partly in Paris. 6 months of the year they would spend in Paris.
Wow.
They're in the garment industry, like because they were Jews from New York, and they go to Paris, and it somehow got in my DNA. So I am absolutely obsessed these days with French food. And I'm kind of trying to manifest a way to go live in Paris. I've been there twice in the last year. So it's what I'm focusing on now, and just trying to find a way to really,
Get to
bring
Paris.
people together through food and explore all the foods. I think I lost track of your question. Sorry.
That's okay. It's a conversation. That's
Yeah.
what this is about. And we have a couple people watching, but the show takes on its own life right afterwards. It goes into video, and people can't always be here.
Yeah.
So it's seen mostly in video, but it's there for those people who want to ask the question. One of the things that you focus on is grilling. Now, you're in LA, it's grilling season all year round, but we're spring, summer here, and fall, and people are getting out their grills. Any advice to, you're getting the grill out, it's been undercover or whatever. Any advice for our guests?
Definitely make sure it's clean, and keep it covered when you're not using it. Always keep it really, definitely keep it, always make sure that the food that you're using, let me just back up. I just did an article about grill baskets, And I'm now a huge proponent. So if you are grilling your steaks, you can have some cherry tomatoes on the side. And so my advice is to use your grill as often as you can, and just make sure that you clean it as often as you can. Keep it into the best shape, because then it just works better and you don't get, grossness or attract bugs.
Right. I
My obsession with grilling, it's super funny. This is a terrible story. I used to advertise my cooking classes on Craigslist way back in the day.
yeah.
And I was asked to give a cooking class to this woman and her boyfriend. And she said he doesn't know how to grill. He's really embarrassed. He feels like he needs to grill. And it turns out, so I show up at this huge mansion in Beverly Hills. It's this woman who I sort of knew through friends. And her boyfriend, who I didn't know, was like an NFL quarterback and a very famous one, I guess. I don't follow sports, but he's like, never tell anyone I don't know how to grill. I'm like, I don't know who you are. So, and he, this big macho dude, and he's like, I don't know how to do this. And I was all little. I'm like, okay, here we go. And he's pretty good at it now, so I'm impressed. Anyone can learn.
Well, yeah, there was a period of time that I did some work with Stephen Reichlin.
I love his books.
Stephen, it's a long story. My late girlfriend was his producer on his various shows. And at the last minute, his personal assistant canceled. Sick, whatever, it was a health issue. And I was called in last minute to go. Now, I had done food styling for him, but I'd never been a PA. So we were in Tubac, Arizona. And we got there and I saw all these grills and I went, oh my God, I hope I don't have to start these things. And I didn't, thank God, because he had all kinds of the Spanish ones and just so many, but that's another story. So grilling, I know how he teaches to clean, but if the grills have been locked up all season, preference, charcoal or gas?
I don't have a preference. I think it kind of just depends on what you're cooking. For me, if I'm doing beef of any sort, I prefer charcoal. I'll happily do fish and vegetables and anything else with propane. And I have 3 grills, which is absurd, but not as many as Steven. But so yeah, whatever's most convenient for you. More people in America do have propane just for the convenience, and it isn't tidier, but I do prefer the flavor of charcoal. But in terms of if I just want to go outside and make some quick dinner, then I'm going to use the propane.
Right. But I'm definitely charcoal. There's nothing like a good charcoal steak or a charcoal burger.
I do love it.
We have something coming. Do you have any favorite recipes that you make using cast iron? You make on the grill?
Cast iron on the grill. Oh, the best thing. Actually, the answer is yes. I love doing asparagus in cast iron any which way, but on the grill, it just gives it the perfect char and the perfect sizzle. And I actually do it in dry cast iron. So you just get that super scorching hot. I also really love to do like any kind of fish, but mostly it's asparagus is the first thing that comes to mind. Oh, and people don't think to grill pearl onions, but if you can even use the frozen ones. Grilling pearl onions in cast iron is a game changer. It's so good.
Let's tell people before COVID, you were doing dinner clubs. How did that evolve?
I went to something called the Ghetto Gourmet Supper Club. There were 100 people showed up. You had to bring your own forks, knives, and chair. And it was like a 5-course meal, and it was this wild experience. And the next day I went to my partner and I said, we have to do this. This was the most incredible thing I ever saw. And I think this was in 2002. No, that can't be right. 2008. And so we started doing a secret supper club. We would invite 16 to 22 strangers to an architecturally significant home somewhere in LA. And we like to have an architecturally significant home because then we'd have, it was just fun to have a little something to talk about. We'd offer a 5-course meal and a little entertainment. And it was a great experience. It's physically exhausting. And once COVID happened, it's taken a backseat, I think, permanently, probably. But it definitely, I'll say it changed my life doing that. And I encourage anyone to do it. And I have to say, I don't know if you use TikTok and Instagram, but it's so popular now to do these supper clubs. And when we were doing it, it was literally like list serves, and it was so long ago. And now you just put something up on Instagram or TikTok and you can build a whole community in 15 minutes. And I'm so impressed with the young women who are doing it now. There's a lot, there's a lot in LA, and we go to them sometimes. And I feel like we walk so they could run, because nowadays it's like, it blows my mind what people are able to do. When I look back, we were very ambitious. We put a lot of effort into it, but nowadays it's like they're Michelin-starred chefs doing this in people's homes. And I'm like, what?
Everything has its cycle.
Agreed.
I was just discussing with someone, the influencers. Before COVID, I was a semi-influencer just because of age. I was there, and being in the business for so long. But to all these, eventually there's going to be something new. There's going to be something that you outgrow. And I just go, I'm enjoying this. I have the show 151 or 152 episodes under my belt. If you told me I'd be doing this 10 years ago, I go, you're a little wacko. But I want to talk about a couple dishes or recipes that you've written, and one that you just did recently for the Nasher, the Tunisian tuna sandwich, which is tuna fricassee. Is that what it's called?
Tuna fricassee. It is the most wild dish. Have you ever had it?
No. And I know that in reading what you did, that it's not the fricassee that people would know about, which is a stew.
Right.
So please fill us in on the Tunisian tuna fricassee sandwich.
So like I said, we traveled a lot when I was a child. And when I was 10, I think, we went to Tunisia on vacation for whatever reason. My father was very like, I don't know, pick a spot, and we went. And we had this sandwich there, and it absolutely blew my mind as a 10-year-old. And what's fantastic is it was created by a Jewish woman. Well, that's sort of the mythology. And what's funny is it's a sandwich in a donut. Okay. I eat it in a roll because I'm not going to eat a donut sandwich, but it's actually a perfect Hanukkah sandwich. I wrote that in the article. What it is it's harissa, tuna, preserved lemon, and hard-boiled eggs in a sandwich. And it kind of brings together everything that I love, because preserved lemons is part of food preservation, and I love making hot sauce. And it's so different than what I'm sure you and I both grew up with, as tuna with mayo and celery and pickles, which I also love, hands down. But this was such a revelation to me because it's such bold flavors. It's so Mediterranean. If you go to Tunisia now, it's literally everywhere, and they don't consider it Jewish per se. But I so connected with the sandwich. And in LA, you can find it at a few different restaurants, always Sephardic restaurants. And it was one of those things where I was, as a little kid, I took one bite of this and I was like, I don't know what I just ate, but I know I love it. Yeah, you should try and make it for sure. It's simple. It's just the hardest thing to do is to hard boil some eggs.
Well, that unless you want to make the rolls or the.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I put the recipe in the article, but to be honest, yeah,
Well,
just
it's those who want to continue doing that.
it
What
is
are
so delicious though. It's so delicious.
So in perusing everything, I saw something Nuco Duco pickles.
Oh my God, you really went deep. Wow. So again, I'm really obsessed with food preservation. Excuse me. Nukuduko is, and I'm not Japanese, obviously. Although my father lived in Japan in the 50s. And so we grew up eating a lot of Japanese food. He was obsessed. And I lived in West LA. So, and it's pickles, it's vegetables that are preserved in essentially fermented rice bran. Super easy to do. If there's a Japanese market near you, you can buy it already fermented, and they usually have little kits in the refrigerated section. It's not, it's a way of fermenting that's quick. You can make a pickle in like an hour, 3. Excuse me. But it adds an incredible earthiness, especially with cucumbers. It's absolutely the best. If you've gone to a Japanese restaurant, you probably had it. So sorry. But yeah, that's so funny you brought that up. I actually went to Japan for the first time ever in March, and I went wild eating all the amazing fermented foods they have there. Have you been to Japan?
No. I've done in Europe. I've done a little bit of France, Italy, a couple trips, and I haven't been back. I would love to get back, but
I'm telling
it's
you, my
all.
dream is to live in Paris 6 months of the year. I'm manifesting
Well,
it.
you know what? You have a sort of like a private Instagram account that's postcards from your late father.
Oh, yes. It's not private, but yes, that's wow. I hashtag everything. I think it's postcards from my father.
Yeah. So I want to remind people everything that you're running courses on how to do how to write. Am I correct?
I do I do Zoom classes. Yes.
Okay.
Writing
So
classes. I do a cookbook writing class and recipe writing classes.
so everybody, to connect with Rachael, chickswithknives.com. And that's her website, that's her Instagram. And are you doing TikTok?
No.
Okay, neither am I.
Watch a lot.
It's enough. So everything that you're doing, and it's really fascinating.
Thank you.
And let's see. I thought it was interesting. You talked about your favorite spices, and you said cardamom number 1. In second place, dill and allspice.
That's the Swedish influence.
Yeah, I love dill. I like sometimes not that I'm going to use it, I'll buy it and put it in the refrigerator so I get that aroma when I open the refrigerator.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So let me ask you my final questions. Best bite you've had all week?
This week I have been homesick, so not much. But we recently ate at Mizlala, which is an incredible Israeli falafel place down the street that just makes me smile so much.
Great. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Buy a house in the Palisades.
It was Coleman Andrews had said that, he wished he knew when he was 18 that he should have bought the house in Venice, California.
I think anyone from LA will say that.
Okay. And ultimate culinary fail.
I cannot make cheese danishes. I've tried, I don't know how many times. I'm obsessed with cheese danishes. Can't be done. I do not believe it can be done by human beings.
So I have a response here. It says, buy a house in the Palisades. The best reply to your question yet. Somebody used to live in California. I appreciate that.
I will. The backstory on that is my father asked if I wanted to buy a condo in the Palisades when I was 18, and I was like, "No, why do I want to own a Palisades?" And it was so cheap back then.
If you wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would it be?
Ooh, I would like to know how to be a better sewer at sewing.
A better what?
Better at sewing.
Oh, okay.
Sort of off topic,
And
but true.
my final
Or able to
question.
do Quenelle really well.
My final question, what didn't I ask you that I should have?
I don't know. I feel like this is really fun, and I really appreciate it. So I feel good about it.
Okay, well then we're good. We can always address any future questions later. I want to thank you so much for jumping in. I feel very lucky to have connected with you, and hopefully we will continue to connect over a period of time. I just think, you're fascinating and you offer so much. So everyone, chickswithknives.com. I want to thank you, Rachel, and I'm just going to go over a couple of notes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really had a good time.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. Next week's guest is Sally Eckes, president and lead agent at Eckes Group, a full-service culinary agency specializing in literary and talent representation. She represents a wide range of culinary health, wellness, and lifestyle talent, from first-time cookbook authors to seasoned chefs, professional food writers and bloggers, and internet and YouTube personalities. The Eckes Group's 40th anniversary was April 2022. She launched a self-paced online course on how to write a cookbook. I need to get back to Jmore Living and just remind you about the two things coming up at jmoreliving.com. On June 2nd, enjoy Laughs and Libations. That's the name of the event at Union Craft Brewing. Have laughs with a unique and introspective evening interfaith comedy show, family-friendly stand-up show starring comedians from various religions. Tickets are $20, and included in the show is one beverage. Doors open at 5 p.m. Program begins at 6 p.m. More of that, look for Laughs and Libations on jmoreliving.com. Also, each month, Jmore will be giving away $50 gift cards to numerous Baltimore restaurants. This also can be found at jmoreliving.com/contest. Feel free to enter as much as you like. And if you need to reach me, you can reach me at my email address, which is food@jmoreliving.com, or Instagram at Dara Cooks. All shows are immediately archived in video form on Jmore's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. Feel free to dig into our video archives of past shows. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. May your plates always, always remain full. Thank you.